Doma Sports Talk worldwide with some news from the world of boxing. So y'all know what time it is. You ain't in a rush to get concussed, baby. Now, told y'all, I had the wrong hat on. Told you, right? I've been saying for months now that lightweight champion George Kambosos, right, got 3 of the belts, is not going to fight Devin Haney, who got the WBC belt, for Undisputed. We were just talking yesterday. Hey, every time we get close to Undisputed, weird things happen. Told you. Got the wrong hat on, right? Told you, right? Because people don't want to see Undisputed, right? Especially if the wrong man could possibly win the fight. It's really simple as that. How am I able to tell you these things, right? I'll go back to saying this. Terrence Crawford suing Bob Arum for racism is just very important for boxing because of things like this. Now, recently just found out that, the George Kambosos versus Devin Haney talks have stalled because of financials. For some reason, they're saying that Devin Haney's not happy with the financial agreement. And I tend not to believe that because Devin Haney knows the situation. He knows that they don't want him to fight anybody to get close to the belt. They allowed Vasily Lomachenko to not fight him and go get a franchise title. They allowed Teofimo Lopez to not fight him for Undisputed, right? They allowed Ryan Garcia, his mandatory, to say, I ain't fighting Devin Haney and anybody else, right? So he's there. He's felt that on himself. So he knows that if he can't ask for too much for this fight with George Kambosos, just to get it. So I doubt very seriously that Devin Haney is pricing himself out. Now, why do people like me come on here and, basically ain't make no money from it? Wasting his time talking about stuff like this is because it's that important. Because of things, the articles that you're going to read are just telling you what's going on. Now, here's an article, right? And the article says, Kambosos versus Haney talks stalled. Lomachenko and Ryan Garcia are possibilities, right? For Kambosos. Ryan Garcia, yeah, the one who ain't fought because he was depressed. And who every time he's in a big fight, about to be, he ain't showing up. Javier Fantua, he ain't showing up. Geoge Diaz, he ain't showing up. Devin Haney, he's the mandatory. He ain't showing up. He said he was going to fight Gervonta Davis. He ain't showing up. And it's somebody new. Matter of fact, Isaac Cruz. All of a sudden, he ain't showing up. So this guy here is a possibility to fight for the title. Right? So that's first. Let's get into the article. Just watch what's going on, guys. So I ain't going to even say the guy who wrote it because I ain't going to do him like that. But anyway, negotiations have stalled between Undisputed lightweight champion George Kambosos Jr. Stop right the hell there. I grazed over that. I grazed over that. They called him at the beginning of the article Undisputed lightweight champion. George Kambosos is definitely not undisputed. And this is where a lawsuit should come in. They shouldn't be allowed to say this, right? Just because some fool made up a new franchise title, we're going to start calling this dude undisputed. He's not. Okay. So, negotiations have stalled between Undisputed lightweight champion George Kambosos Jr. and Eddie Hearn promoted WBC belt holder Devin Haney. According to Sports Illustrated, Haney, 27-0 with 15 KOs, isn't happy with the financial package for Kambosos' Undisputed fight. Haney, 23, is a terrible option for Kambosos because he's got a boring fighting style and it won't attract much interest. So, there you have it. First, Devin Haney, what was his record? Let's just go up there. It's 27-0 with 15 KOs. He's the lightweight champion, and his style is boring, right? I've never seen, I don't call him boring. That's not boring to me. I don't see nothing about it. But he has a boring fighting style, and it won't attract much interest. An undisputed fight won't attract much interest, right? But these circus fights will. But an undisputed, you can't put undisputed on there, and it still ain't going to attract much interest. Okay, but we're going to keep going. Hearn thought he'd found gold when he signed Haney a couple of years ago. You can argue that he found the equivalent of fool's gold, right? This keeps going. Haney isn't going to be the next Floyd Mayweather Jr., and he doesn't attract a lot of interest in the fights in the U.S. Maybe if Haney lived in the U.K., he would be popular, but not in the U.S. That's a true statement. The fighters that are popular in the States is what they're trying to say, tend to be more entertaining and possible punching power. Floyd Mayweather Jr. was one of the rare instances in the heavyweight of U.S. boxing where a non-puncher became a star, right? But Floyd Mayweather didn't become a star because of his promoter or anything like that. He became a star because he started promoting himself, and he started beating up on people that were not of color, and people were coming to see him get beat up, right? Because you know, Floyd wouldn't have been a star if they would have told it. But anyway, we keep it moving. I don't want to stop. Most of the time, the light hitters don't become stars in the States, and that's why you got to feel sorry, right? Why you got to feel sorry for Hearns, because some believe he's overpaying Haney. Now let's make sure this is clear. You're not a star in the States regardless, because Deontay Wilder knocks people the hell out, and sensationally, and he wasn't a big star. Right, so that's just to make sure it gets clear. A black person doesn't matter if he's knocking people out or not. Boring is another reason. What they mean by boring is, I ain't trying to tune into a fight with watching a black person, right, hit somebody and not get hit back. That turns into being boring. Bottom line, it's sour grapes. Okay, Chris Mannix of Sports Illustrated reports the news about the Kambosos-Haney fights have stalled. He says that the negotiations are going well with top-ranked promoter Vasily Lomachenko and Kambosos, so that's a possibility for the Australians' next fight. Okay, so we just went to a guy that doesn't have any punching power and boring, and then we go straight to Lomachenko, who fights exactly like Haney. Not that much punching power and should be boring. So you went from Devin Haney, who's 27 wins and has 15 KOs. That's not that bad of a KO percentage, but okay. And then you go straight to Lomachenko. He ain't knocking too many people out either. You know what I'm saying? But okay. Ryan Garcia, a possibility for Kambosos. Also, Ryan Garcia is one of the options for Kambosos. That would be a 2-fight deal in which King Rai and Kambosos 20-0 and 10 KOs. Kambosos' knockout percentage is worse than Devin Haney's, by the way. Would take interim fights in the first half of 2022 and then meet in the second half. Right? Sean Jones likes the idea of Kambosos fighting Ryan Garcia. This is the guy who wrote the article. It sounds like he would like that. It would be a 50-50 type of matchup that would attract a lot of interest from boxing fans. Well, I'm a boxing fan, and I wouldn't give a damn. I ain't trying to watch Ryan Garcia fight nobody at all. Right? Not before Devin Haney, who deserves it. No, and I'm a boxing fan. That's all I am here. Well, I'm a sport fan first, but you know, I watch boxing. Right? So I'm not interested in Ryan Garcia fighting anybody until he has a couple of fights first, and then he can get in the mix. But I would hate to see Ryan Garcia get a shot from what he's done to boxing for the last year or two. So, and the guy who's doing exactly what he's supposed to not getting a shot. So there you have it from a boxing fan. In contrast, if Kambosos faces Lomachenko, he'll have a very little chance of beating the talented 2-time Olympic gold medalist from Ukraine. Lomachenko is too talented for Kambosos to beat him. Can't say that about Haney, no, but we can't, huh? In contrast, if Kambosos, oh wait, no, I read that already. If Kambosos goes for that deal, he will make a voluntary defense against a likely bottom feeder contender before facing Ryan later this year. It's unclear who Ryan, 21-0 with 18 KOs, who would face. Now, here's Ryan Garcia, and here's somebody I forgot to mention. Tevin Farmer recently mentioned that he was in the running for Ryan's next fight, but it's unlikely he'll get the fight because he has too much experience for the 23-year-old Golden Boy fighter. Now, think about this. Ryan Garcia is 23, the same age as Devin Haney, and Tevin Farmer is too experienced for him to fight. So, we've run out. He didn't go fight Isaac Cruz. He ain't going to fight Tevin Garcia. Tevin Farmer, right? He ain't gonna fight Geoge Diaz. He ain't gonna fight Javier Fortuna. He ain't gonna fight Devin Haney, right? It's the only one Ryan will fight is Kambosos. How many people Ryan don't have to fight nobody. It sounds like Canelo, because I can do a same list with Canelo. Canelo ain't fighting Andre. He ain't fighting Charlo. He ain't fighting Beterbiev. He ain't fighting Bivol. He ain't fighting David Morrell Jr. He ain't fighting Benavidez. You know what I'm saying? There's too many people that they ain't fighting. And then instead of getting on them and say, well, we don't want to see y'all fight. Right? We just keep saying, well, okay, well, Kambosos, that would be cool for Ryan Garcia to slip in past everybody who deserves it and get a shot. Yeah, that's what you want to see, Mr. Sean Jones. So, talks for a lightweight title fight between Devin Haney and George Kambosos have stalled, says Maddox to Sports Illustrated. Officials involved have struggled to come up with a financial package that will satisfy Haney. Right? And I'm going to put the article in the description, but I ain't reading no more. Bottom line is, y'all know what, that's why I'm in here, right here, for stuff like that. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I don't really have to even go in there. Y'all know that's damn ridiculous. Right? This is the kind of articles that people are able to write. They want Ryan Garcia and Kambosos to have interim fights and meet later in the year. So we got the guy that got 3 belts waiting to fight a Ryan Garcia who ain't done nothing in a year and a half. And that's what they would rather see, rather than Undisputed against Devin Haney. And see, Undisputed against Devin Haney, we have an undisputed fight, and then Lomachenko could get the winner. But they don't want that either. I repeat, they don't want that either, because the reason why they don't want that is because Lomachenko ain't going to want to fight Devin Haney either. That's why we have a franchise title. That's why they're able to call a Kambosos undisputed, a Teofimo Lopez undisputed, because your boy Lomachenko, who's supposed to be the best one, right? He's supposed to be the best one. He wanted a franchise title instead of fighting Devin Haney, the boring guy, right? Just like Mayweather and Pacquiao. So boring. When the best fight, second best fighter of all time, was neutralized from the beginning of the damn fight, and we call that boring. Let me make sure. Floyd Mayweather beat, old ass Floyd Mayweather beat Manny Pacquiao, second best fighter of all time, and the old ass Mayweather beat our so-called #1 pound for pound in Canelo Alvarez by a landslide. So if Canelo Alvarez is our best fighter to date, and Manny Pacquiao is #2 pound for pound, then Floyd Mayweather is the GOAT by far. By your standards, if you call him Canelo Alvarez the very best fighter, because I'm telling you one thing right now, Mayweather wouldn't beat no Demetrius Andrade like he beat Canelo. I'm guaranteeing you that. He sure as hell wouldn't have beat no Demetrius Andrade the way he beat Canelo. Can we agree on that? Anyway, guys, what you think? Damn it, the fight to make is Kambosos versus Devin Haney, period. We got Undisputed, and then everybody can line up. Because if Devin Haney wins, we won't have any more problems, guys. We won't have anybody problem. Everybody will have to see Devin Haney, and he'd be willing to fight them. Do you guys want that? Doma Sports Talk worldwide. And I'm up out of here, y'all.